Hey, what's up? My name is Dan Go, and thanks for joining me in here in my laboratory. This is what I call my fitness laboratory, and this is where I do a lot of training for my clients, and also it's where I get to test out a lot of the new stuff that comes in through the fitness industry. And today, what we're going to do in this fitness laboratory is we're going to show you what I call the perfect pre-workout formula. And what it is essentially a 6-minute sequence that you should be doing right before your workouts. That's going to enhance your strength, your speed, your flexibility, your power, and as well as your endurance. It'll give you a little bit more energy, and it'll also prime your body for any type of physical activity that you choose to do, whether it be working out with weights or even playing a sport. So yeah, we're right in here. We're going to show you the first one, and let's get this started. Alright, so we are here, and as you can see, I'm holding on to balls right now. Well, the first sequence that you should be doing right before your workouts is essentially doing what we call self-myofascial release or self-massage. Now, you can do this with a foam roller. I particularly love to do these with these things called massage balls, or you can call them whatever you want. Essentially, these are able to get a little bit deeper into your muscles. They individualize the massages a lot better than the foam roller. They actually get into those really deep spots, say like in the posterior delt as well as the hip, and they just make for better massages in general. So before we get into the self-myofascial release, I want to just take you through the levels. So if you're really sensitive, and you'll know if you put this ball on any part of your hip, your back, or even like your chest or pecs, you'll know if your fascial tissue is really sensitive. And this is the first level to start with, and it's a tennis ball. And as you can see, it gives you a lot of give in there, and it allows for a nice cushiony surface to actually place your fascial tissue on. Now, at some point in time, your body's going to get used to this. This won't be as effective as it used to be because, you know, as you do more massages, as you do more self-myofascial release, your body just adapts, it gets better. And just like weight training, you have to step up a level and you have to kind of pick up the intensity. And how we do that is with the lacrosse ball. Now with the lacrosse ball, what you'll notice is there isn't really that much give. And essentially this is going to be the principal type of ball that you'll be using for your massages. This one gives you a little bit of give. It's way harder than the actual tennis ball. And essentially it's the same size as a tennis ball, so it'll actually get into those really deep areas that you need to, like I mentioned, in the hip, in the lat, in the posterior delt, and also in the glutes. So that is the second level. Now, if you are really sadistic, or if you have really great fascial tissue, that means that your tissue is it's not sensitive to the lacrosse ball. It will be sensitive to the final level, which is a hard ball. Now the hard ball, it gives you no give whatsoever. There's no cushion. This is for people who have been doing self-myofascial release for at least a couple months to even 6 months. Their fascial tissue is really of good quality, and essentially when they roll on this, they're actually creating a little bit of pain, but not so much pain, not more pain than the actual lacrosse ball. So keep in mind the levels. If you're just doing this for the first time, I would start with the tennis ball. If you've been doing self-myofascial release for a long time, then use the lacrosse ball. And if you're really good with the self-myofascial release, then you would actually use the hard ball. And let's teach you 3 exercises on how to use these things. Okay, now before we get into the exercises, a couple things to note. If this is right before your workout, then go very lightly on the massages. Make sure that you go maybe 10 to 20 seconds on each muscle group. If it's before your workout, this shouldn't last any longer than 2 minutes in terms of massaging your entire body. If you're doing a full body circuit, or even if you're doing an upper or lower body type of workout, just go on the affected areas that you plan to use for the workout, okay? But make sure that you go lightly on them. You should feel a slight hint of pain, but you shouldn't be in excruciating pain. The other thing is that if this is on the off day, then you can actually go a little bit harder on the exercises. And also keep in mind that if this is your first time doing this, you will be sore the next day. It's totally normal, and it will go away after a while. Just like when you lifted weights for the first time, you got sore the next day. It's the same thing with the massage, but it's a good thing if you are sore, because that means that your fascial tissue is actually repairing itself and getting a bit stronger, which is what you want if you work out. Now, the other thing I want you to keep in mind is with the actual massages, you're going to be gravitating towards the pain as opposed to away from the pain when you're doing the workout. So when you find a sensitivity in your body with the ball, you're going to actually be gravitating towards that sensitivity, because that is where the dysfunction is in your fascial tissue, and you have to work it out. So again, if it's before your workout, you go over it lightly. If it's after your workout, dig into it a lot more. Go on to those really, really painful areas for about 45 seconds to a minute to even 2 minutes. And what you're going to try to find is these things called trigger points or knots. And these trigger points are just really, really, really sensitive to the touch. You probably roll over them a bit, a couple times. And when you find those trigger points, what I want you to do is before workout, you're going to be spending only about 10 seconds on it, releasing it a little bit, and you're staying on it, just holding it right there. And if it's on an off day, or if you're just chilling in front of your couch, you're doing these massages, then you can actually hold those trigger points for at least 60 seconds to even like 2 minutes to 3 minutes, depending on how much pain you can take. So these are the things to note right before you do the massages. And one other thing is make sure that you breathe. That's another way that we're going to transfer a lot of the dysfunction away from that muscle and have it working in the proper way. So let's get into these exercises right now. So we are going to take you through what I call the 3 pillars of pain, and this is where people find the most dysfunction in their bodies. And we're going to be working on your knees, we're going to be working on your shoulders, and we're going to be working on lower back pain. So these are all dysfunctions that I find with about 99% of my clients coming into my gym that we have to work on even before they start doing their workouts with us. So first one is going to be for the lower back. Now we want to work on the hip and the glute area. I'm going to take this ball, and you're going to see 2 areas that we're going to be working on. One, I'm going to put on my glute, and all we're going to do is, I like to go in up and down motions with the ball, and I like to use my hands to kind of control how much force I put onto the ball. Now my fascial tissue is really desensitized to this ball, so I can go a little bit harder. If I find a trigger point, I'm just going to stop on it, I'm going to stay, and I'm just going to breathe it out. Alright? Now, we did the glute. What I'm going to do right now, for the lower back still, okay, just to release a lot of that tension in the lower back, I'm going to turn around into my hip. Your shorts are going to get caught into it. So I'm going to turn around into my hip. I'm going to go up and down, and if you want, you can actually go side to side onto that hip area as well, and use your arms again to control the amount of force that you want to put onto the ball. And that is for the hip area. Now, one other area of the lower back that you may want to touch, but it's going to be super sensitive, is called the tensor fascial lata. And as you know, with a lot of lower back pains that you get in the gym, or even like sitting in your chair, a lot of it stems from having tight hips and also tight glutes. So what we want to do is we want to loosen that up as much as possible, and when we do, we can actually reduce a lot of the tension happening up in that lower back area. So tensor fascial lata is going to be this area right here. It's right in between the hip, right just above the psoas area. And what we're going to do is we're going to lie down onto our side, and I'm going to place my hip right there, and I'm going to find that sensitive area. I'm going to use my elbow, control that pressure. And with this particular exercise, you may not see it. I'm going to lift up my shirt just a bit so you can see where the ball is. And it's going into that little deep pocket right where the hip is. And all I'm doing is just holding and maybe rolling around a little bit, trying to find a little bit more deeper pocket right there, and breathing. So for these exercises, what you want to do is you want to do it for about 20 to 30 seconds. Loosen up that lower back a little bit, loosen up your hips, loosen up your glutes. If it's outside of the workout, again, you go a little bit harder on it. You stay on it for about 1 minute to 2 minutes, and you work on those trigger points. Okay, so the next one we're going to be doing is going to be for your shoulder. Alright, now we're going to do this for your shoulder, and we're going to show you one massage. And what it's going to be is actually going to be for 2 areas of your body. It's going to be for your posterior delt, Okay, so right at the rear of your deltoid right here. And we're going to be getting into the lat, because a lot of times with shoulder problems, you may feel it right here in the front, in the anterior part, but a lot of it is actually the fascial tissue and the muscles pulling it back from the lat and from your posterior delt. So I've had shoulder injuries in the past. I'm not going to say this is a one-size-fits-all thing, but I'm going to probably gander that this is going to be a super sensitive spot for you, and if it is, that means you got to get rid of that dysfunction. So where I'm putting this, right between that shoulder blade, almost above my armpit, I'm going to take this ball, I'm just going to lie down in it. Now, you're going to notice my arm placement right here. First of all, this arm is going to be right here. If you're very sensitive, you're going to take this arm, you're going to use it to control the force of how much force you want on that ball with your body. The same thing I'm going to do with this arm. I'm going to actually move it to a 90-degree angle. I'm going to push my wrist down, and then this opens up, this opens up the rear delt and allows me to get a little bit deeper into that little massage. Now, I can always lift this up, I can rub around, I can find out where that fascial tissue dysfunction is, and again, we're always gravitating towards the pain. And especially if you do a lot of back exercises, even a lot of chest exercises, surprisingly, this is one of those massages you want to do on a regular basis. Now, second exercise I want you to do for the shoulder, for the massage, is actually going right underneath to your lat. This is important because a lot of times people carry around tight lats, and it automatically creates dysfunctions right in the upper back and also in the shoulder blades. So we're going to take this ball again, we're going to put it right underneath our armpit. And all I'm going to do right here is just roll down and up on that lat with the ball. This will be very sensitive for people who have not done this exercise before. So if you have a lot of sensitivity in this area, use a tennis ball or use a soft foam roller. And all you're going to do is up and down. Breathing out. And then you can turn in and you can turn out a little bit. Up and down. And what you're going to see is, what you may not see is that this ball is just operating right along this path. It goes a little bit back here, and I'm gravitating all towards the sensitivities in that particular muscle area. And the last part we're going to be doing is going to be for the third pillar pain, and it's going to be for the knee. Alright, here we go, and we're at the last pillar of pain, and this is going to be a massage for anyone that experiences any types of knee pain. So again, if it's before your workout, you go on it very lightly, you lightly massage that fascial tissue. You don't want to go on it too hard. If it's on an off day or if you're just chilling right in front of your TV, you go hard at it, alright? So yeah, a lot of the exercises that we showed you, very counterintuitive. Maybe you didn't realize that the hips and the glutes, tightness there, leads to a lot of tightness in your lower back. Maybe with the shoulder, you didn't realize that a lot of the lat and also a lot of the posterior delt has an effect on the pain that you feel right here in the shoulder. Now, same thing goes with the knee. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to work on your adductor, okay? We're going to actually work on the surrounding areas of your knee. So we're going to work on the adductor, on the IT band, and the quad, just working on all three just to make sure that we get rid of any scar tissue, release any of the dysfunction that we have in the muscle, and we're just going to get started right now. I'm going to stop talking. So here we go. We're going to just drop this. I'm going to hike up my shorts a little bit. And what you're going to see is I'm going to actually be rolling this ball in a circular motion. I'm going to be going back and forth, and I'm going to be going in areas such as this. So taking this ball right to the adductor area, and all I'm doing is rolling. Now you may feel very sensitive in this spot. A lot of first-time people that do this type of exercise actually feel most sensitivity right here because it's just an area that they've neglected. Now, when you're doing this exercise, you're also going to go up and down, and you can go in little stitches just like so. And if you find that trigger point, you stay on it. Next exercise for the knee is going to be for the adductor. Alright, sorry, not for the adductor, but for the IT band. I'm going to take this foot, I'm going to use my hands, I'm going to use them to control the force. Okay, so you don't want to put all of your force onto this ball, especially depending on how sensitive you are. So use these to give yourself as much or as least amount of force as possible. And what you're going to see is I'm rolling the ball right up here, right to my IT band. Alright, right at the side of that quad and breathing at the same time. And getting the ball caught in my shorts at the same time. And the last one we're going to do is for the quadricep. Now, for the quadricep, we're going to lie on your stomach. I'm going to take my shorts, I'm going to heighten them up a little bit, and I'm going to put that right on top of the quad. If I want to just have the least amount of pressure, okay, what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to keep my foot on the ground and use that to control the force. Now, if I want to put a lot of pressure, I'm going to be lifting up that leg and putting a lot more force on it. So what we're going to do is, we're just going to keep this down, do a couple here. Now I'm going to lift, going to turn in, right to the top of that quad, and turn out, right to the top. Whew. And if you didn't see, that ball was right there. It's going up and down. So, hope you got a lot of value out of this. This is one part of the sequence that you want to do. It doesn't take longer than 2 minutes. You do it right before your workout and you're going to be feeling like $1 million. And essentially, as you go along and as you apply this stuff to your body and a lengthier period of time, you're actually going to be feeling better than you did back when you were a teenager, or even back 2 years ago. It heals so much pain. It releases a lot of dysfunction in your body, and it actually helps you move in a way that you've never moved before in your entire life. So yeah, start doing this right here. And then the next part, we're going to get into the actual other sequences, the neuromuscular activators and the dynamic mobility sections.